بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. There is an ayah that fascinates me. I'm sure that it fascinates all those who recite it in the Quran. It is repeated 4 times, once in Surah Al-Ma'idah, once in Surah Al-Tawbah, once in Surah Al-Mujadala, and once in Surah Al-Bayyinah. And this fascinating ayah goes like this: رضي الله عنهم ورضوا عنه. A description of people who are close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. God says that God is satisfied with them, and in return they are satisfied with God. Now, this is 2 portions in this ayah. The first one is easy to understand, that God is satisfied with the believers. God is satisfied with those who live their lives in line with the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it is natural that God would be satisfied with them. But how could people be satisfied with God? What kind of a relationship is such that the created are satisfied with the Creator? Now let us look at it this way, that to be satisfied with God means that anything that God brings your way, you will accept with pleasure. If it is good, you thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for it. If it is not so good and brings you distress, you still are satisfied with God. You accept it and you know that it is for your own good. And this is not easy. This is not easy for people to be satisfied with God in a state of sickness, for example. One would understand if you are healthy, that it's easy to be satisfied with God because He gave you health. But if you are sick and you are satisfied with that sickness, if you are poor and you are satisfied with God and you live with that poverty with happiness, if God takes away from you something that is so dear to you, yet still you continue to be happy with God, if you run into such a crisis that all of us are living nowadays, and you still have a smile on your face, you still say that God knows better than me, God knows better than all of us. And I did mention that in a previous recording, that God knows, we don't know. Wallahu ya'lamu wa antum la ta'lamun. Now, I don't want to be too idealistic, because it is not that easy for a person to reach that level of satisfaction with everything that God brings her way or his way. It is not easy. You have to really work gradually at it. It is something that you develop over time as you find yourself close to God, and that you are living with everything in this life as a test, as something that is leading you to the real life that comes after that passage that we call death. I want to now mention a few things about this satisfaction, so that some people may not say, well, this is not for me because I know it's too difficult. I am not that great of a believer. I believe in God, but I don't think I can really get to that level. Let me explain to you and bring it to the level of all people who really want it can get it. Number one, there's no nothing that really stop people who are satisfied with God from feeling pain. If something befalls you and you feel the pain of that crisis, you feel the distress, it's normal. All human beings have that nature inside them. They have to feel pain, and that is not contradictory to being satisfied with God. Notice that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, when he lost his 16 months old son Ibrahim to death, he cried. He felt the pain of loss. And many people cry when they lose a loved one. So there's no contradiction. But what happens is that when you panic, when you object, when you say, why me? Why did it happen to me? That is a sign that you are not satisfied with God. So that's number one. I repeat, no contradiction at all between feeling pain and being satisfied with God. Number two, there is a difference between patience with a crisis, with a calamity, with something that befalls you, and being satisfied with God. Now, rida, satisfaction, is not the same as patience. Now, patience is to know that whatever happened to you was not in your hand, and that is why you show patience in face of that. But down deep inside, as you are displaying that patience, you may continue to say, why me? But satisfaction with God, ar-rida, is to face that difficulty and feel happy that God chose you for that difficulty, that God found you worthy of dealing that test with you. So this is satisfaction. Now, number three, yes, I did say that this is within the reach of all human beings, but you have to really work at it. It's like saying that college, university is open to everybody who wants to go and study and be educated. But that does not mean that once you enter university, once you go to college, you will graduate with the minimum amount of work. No, it doesn't mean that. You have to really work hard at it. And the same thing, if you want to reach to the level of being satisfied with God, waradu an, you have to work at it. You have to really show God that you want it, and God will help you to achieve it by God giving you tests, and then you show. And by the way, tests are not always something that you dislike. It can be, with something that you really like, but if you abuse it, if God gives you lots of wealth and you abuse that wealth, it doesn't show that you are satisfied with God. No. You've got to really work as per the recipe, as per the divine recipes of the Almighty who created us and knows our nature. And number four, you should understand that without testing with difficulties, we will never be able to reach that level of being satisfied with God. The same thing, I always repeat that, when I was, teaching at university in dental school, I always used to select those students that had that little extra, and I'll give them that difficult patients to deal with, because that will develop their skill, that will really bring out that skill that is deep inside and bring it to the surface, and their level of confidence will rise to higher and higher levels. And the same thing, God, in finding that some people really want to reach that high level of satisfaction with what God gives them, He gives them difficult tests. Now, some people with weak inner selves may say, so does that mean that if I have to reach that high level, that God will, bring my way difficulties and disasters, and so I don't want it? No, it's not that way. God will bring with every difficulty the means for you to accept it and live with it. as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran that He brings with every disaster the means inside us to accept it and to live with it. And finally, I want to say that a great companion of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ by the name of Ubadah ibn Samit, when he was on his deathbed, his son came to him and he said, "Father, can you give me a nasiha, an advice, something that I will remember you with for the rest of my life?" So Ubadah related to him something that he learned from Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and this is, by the way, reported by Ahmed and reported by Abu Dawood, and it was rated as an authentic narration by Al-Albani. So what did Ubadah ibn Samit say to his son? He said, "وَاعْلَمْ أن ما أصابك لم يكن ليخطئك وما أخطأك لم يكن ليصيبك," meaning that which is going to come your way is going to hit its target and will never miss, and that which is meant to miss you will never hit you, will never, because God knows where His trials will come. So if you feel that way, you should feel satisfied that, again, the hadith that is narrated through the authority of Abdullah ibn Abbas, that when he was behind Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he was holding to him, every time I mention this hadith, I imagine, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam on his she camel and I'm holding him from back and he is talking with me, lucky was Abdullah ibn Abbas. So what did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam say to him? وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ النَّاسَ لَوْ اجْتَمَعُوا عَلَى أَنْ يَضُرُّوكَ بِشَيْءٍ لم يكتبه الله ما ضروك إلا بشيء قد كتبه الله عليك. That if all people will get together and put all their efforts to hurt you with something that was not destined by God, they will not be able to do anything to you. And if they will try to give you something that you like and God has not willed that to come your way, it will never happen. So we have to really place all our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we have to be among those who are satisfied with God. رضي الله عنهم ورضوا عنه ذلك لمن خشي ربه. Ya Allah. Wassalamu alaikum